Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we dig into the sometimes confusing world of company reports. Today, we're cracking open a Form 8K from No Labs, and trust me, it's not as boring as it sounds. Think of it as a magician pulling a rabbit out of a hat, except the rabbit is a reverse stock split. In simple terms, No Labs just announced some important changes that could affect their stock. The main point is a reverse stock split, but what does that mean? We'll get into all of it and what it means for the company. And you? First things first, this report is dated February 10th, 2025. So this is fairly recent news. Keep in mind that this is the date when the event they're talking about happened, not necessarily when they filed the report. Now let's jump into the juicy details. There's something here about changes to the rights of security holders, meaning people who own the company's stock. Usually big changes like this mean something important is happening. Here it is, the big news, No Labs is doing a reverse stock split. This means they are reducing the number of available shares. It sounds complicated, but is actually simple. Imagine you have 40 slices of pizza, and instead of 40 small slices, you decide to combine them into one big slice. That is basically what is going on with a reverse stock split. In this case, it's a 1-for-40 split. For every 40 shares you own, they will become one share. Now, why would a company do this reverse split thing? Well, there can be a few reasons, but in this case, it appears that No Labs is trying to increase its stock price. Sometimes, if a stock price gets too low, it can be kicked off the stock exchange. So, a reverse split increases the stock price. The reverse stock split was processed on February 18th, 2025. This means that the change is officially happening. The shares will start trading at their post-split value on February 19th. This means that if you own No Labs stock, your number of shares will change on that date, but the overall value of your holdings should remain the same immediately after the split. Also take note that the SUSIP number, which is basically a serial number for the stock, is changing. If you have the stock, you don't have to worry too much about this number. Here's an important detail. No Labs is allowed to do this reverse stock split without getting approval from the stockholders. This is because of the laws in Nevada where the company is incorporated. Now, what happens if you don't have exactly 40 shares or a multiple of 40? What happens if you have, say, 45 shares? Well, No Labs says they won't issue fractional shares. Instead, they'll round up to the nearest whole share. So if you have 41 shares, you will end up with 2 shares after the split. As a result of the reverse stock split, the number of authorized shares of No Labs stock will be reduced from 300 million to 7.5 million. The number of outstanding shares, meaning the shares that are actually owned by investors, will be reduced from about 112 million to about 2.8 million. The company says that the reverse stock split won't really change the percentage of the company that each stockholder owns, except for a few minor changes when it comes to fractional shares. If you hold paper stock certificates, you can send them to Equinity Trust Company, the company's transfer agent, to get new certificates that show the reverse stock split. This isn't required though, so you don't have to do anything. Now here is an important detail. No Labs is doing this reverse stock split to meet the minimum share price requirements to stay listed on the NYSE American Stock Exchange. If they didn't do this, they could be kicked off the exchange, which would make it harder for investors to buy and sell their stock. The company included the Certificate of Change, which is the legal document that officially makes the reverse stock split happen. No Labs also put out a press release about the reverse stock split. Companies will often do this to make sure everyone knows what's going on and to control the narrative. The press release basically says the same thing as the report we just discussed, that the reverse stock split is happening. Finally, there's some technical stuff about the filing itself. This part isn't really important for most investors to worry about. Now, let's step back and think about what all this means. No Labs is facing pressure to keep its stock price high enough to stay on the NYSE American. A reverse stock split can be a quick fix, but it doesn't solve the underlying problems if the company isn't performing well. On the one hand, staying listed on the exchange can make the stock more attractive to some investors. It also avoids the negative perception that comes with being delisted or removed from the exchange. On the other hand, reverse stock splits can sometimes be seen as a sign of trouble. It means the company's stock price has fallen low enough that they need to artificially inflate it to meet exchange requirements. What about the future? It's hard to say for sure where No Labs is headed. The reverse stock split buys them some time, but they still need to improve their business and increase their stock price. We would need to dig a lot deeper than this 8K filing to assess if the company is likely to succeed or not. From the information contained in the filing, it is hard to assess No Labs' financial health or forecast a target stock price. Overall, my opinion leans towards neutral with a slight bias towards bearish until No Labs demonstrates that it can improve its financial performance. A key thing to watch for would be the company's revenue. Thanks for watching Corporate Decoder. If you found this helpful, please subscribe for more breakdowns of company reports.